Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Last week, we didn't have a chance to finish with the UC personal insight questions. So I wanted to start out with the fifth out of six case studies that the University of California gave to us. So this is like, I guess actually three of these are all to that UC Personal Insight question 8, which is essentially write about anything. So go ahead and take a couple of minutes to read through this example, case 5, and see what you think. Please let me know if there are any problems, and let me know when you finish reading this. Okay, a few people are done. Sunny. Oh shoot, sorry. That's not what I meant to do. Okay. Anybody still working on this? Okay. So what's some feedback that somebody has, things that they think that this writer did well or didn't do well? You can either type it or you can speak. Use your choice. Okay, Andrew said demonstrates his unique background. That's definitely true. Anything else? Going once. Going, okay. Good reflection. Okay, Audrey says. And going twice, going 3 times. So this is one of the 2 best essays that they've given us, or personal insight question answers that they've given us. As I'm sure you see and realize. As Andrew said, I mean, this person demonstrates his or her unique background. And, you know, let's face it, this person has a somewhat unusual background. There are not very many of us who can say that we've lived in a tiny village of 70 people in northern Sweden, and then, you know, the huge city of Los Angeles. More the latter than the former. And yes, there does seem to be some strange pro-Swedish bias amongst these amongst these samples, that, you know, like 2 out of the 6 people have some sort of Swedish connection. That seems way out of proportion with the UC population, as I would imagine, or the population of California. So as Audrey said, I think there is some good reflection too. Let's take a look at what the UC readers said, and then I want to come back to a couple of things about this one. So I see I'm not enough. Okay, successful, focused on depth of topic versus breadth. That is definitely true. And experiences that challenge the applicant's thinking and helped inspire future goals. The student had, in this second paragraph, they say, with hopes for a career in politics, being able to step into another's shoes and consider the rationale behind whatever viewpoint they may hold is a valuable skill that I've begun to adopt as a result of this duality. So definitely kind of the future goals, parallels between contrasting experiences and cultures in the United States and in Sweden, and kept it focused on applicant. I think this is something that they say about all of the ones that they liked. So this added value to this student's application. And this is the introduction, synthesizes what the response will be about in 1 sentence. So kind of sets the reader's expectations. And this this deviates a little bit from what they say about not wanting thesis statements, but it fits, I think, pretty well with the UC's wanting a direct response. So we learn about the student's upbringing and how it shaped them in a way that's clear and specific. It provides strong value, gives more context that the readers didn't get anywhere else in the application. So as you can imagine, unless this person just happened to attend school in remote part of Sweden, they probably don't have, or was born there, they probably don't have much about that. And even in that case, it would just be fragmentary information. And they're saying student focused on depth rather than breadth. This is really critical with these UC personal insight questions, because you are going to write 4 of them. So each one should be meaty, substantial, focused. 2 very different contradictory experiences challenged the student's thinking, helped inspire the future goals. but didn't seem schizophrenic. It was kind of clear and coherent in their response. And they're drawing parallels between contrasting experiences added value as well. Let's see. Okay, so I think this is what they're going to say. So I want to point out one other thing that this student did that I think can be instructive. So some of you or many of you have a background or experiences with more than one culture, as this student does. If you start writing about, like the minute that you start writing about Americans are like this, or Chinese people are like this, or Chinese Americans are like this, or I mean, even much more specific subpopulations. Even if you start writing about seniors at Gun High are like this, or Pali students are like this, it's pretty easy to fall into this quagmire and this pitfall of overgeneralizing. Because chances are everyone in a group, even a pretty small group like the students at your school, they're not all one way. And to describe them as being, you know, all the same is to overgeneralize and to some extent to stereotype. So this is kind of frustrating because you've observed things from different points of view, and like this student, you may want to comment on them. So this student does something really slick. Instead of, so yeah, they do talk a little bit about the United States, and they do talk a little bit about Sweden, but what this student does is he or she focuses on people in, let's say, his family. Now, I don't know his Swedish family, so I don't know if they're ultra conservative. I don't know his grandfather, so I don't know if his grandfather is hyper religious. I kind of have to take his word for it. But he's kind of using, I'm not saying that this student is doing anything that's not true, but he's using people as stand-ins or foils. So instead of having to write about, you know, all Swedes, all Americans, and this clash of values, he can write about family members and use them as sort of stand-ins. And you know, we can't really argue with them because we don't know these family members. So, but it's a way to, you notice when they were talking about these, what he did well, they're talking about how he's able to do these parallels between contrasting experiences and cultures and stuff. But this student, the way that he does it, manages to avoid the typical pitfalls that you would fall into. So I think that's a pretty neat workaround. Okay, so this last one is awful, but it's fun. So we'll spend a few minutes. I'll read it to you anyway. So this is also to that standout. Prompt 8. This student says, what makes me a standout candidate for admissions to the University of California is, I'm not afraid to cross boundaries and take chances. The rest of the candidates rather fall into the same category. With me, the beauty of my aura is, you can't place me into a specific category. Academically, I have improved tremendously, unlike any other. My future is far different. You can't pick an applicant who wants to use all their future salary to start their own foundation, to help at-risk youth, aid economically disadvantaged teens, receive scholarships, low-income families, and animals of all kinds. That's a pretty broad scope. I think it covers just about everything. Simply put, I am the complete package the University of California has been looking for to put on those brochures. I know some students have higher test scores than me, but that doesn't take away from my credibility. I made up for that mistake in how I elevated my coursework from my freshman year to my junior year. The adversaries I've overcome, and I'm the only one who can succeed out of my comfort zone. Put me in any situation, have me stranded with no source of hope, I guarantee you, I will make you regret your decisions. If it's a quiz I haven't studied for, trying to complete a last-minute project with limited materials, blank, I guess that's the person's name, can without a shadow of a doubt get the job done. Say, for example, I go up against 3 standout debaters from UCLA, and I haven't had any practice, and my admissions ticket is on the line. I'm taking on that challenge full throttle, and don't be surprised if I turn some heads in the process. Take chances. In terms of crossing boundaries, in 9th grade, I tried out for the lacrosse team without ever playing and no knowledge of the game. I had to go up against highly skilled athletes. I went home battered and bruised, but I do not regret crossing the boundary and trying something new. All in all, I'm the complete package who desperately wants to prove the doubters. We got we're cut off for a moment, probably because of some vengeful God for me reading that awful essay to you. Okay. What do they say about this case study 6? They're actually pretty generous. Too many ideas and examples in one response, difficult to follow their thoughts, lack of depth and follow through on examples. This is one where they call out grammar and spelling mistakes because it gets in the way of understanding. And this person, although there's a lot of braggadocio, they are not really focusing on, I don't know, I could be wrong, I have to assume this is a male, on his own achievements and compares himself to others. I suppose it's possible this could be a female, but it's hard for me to imagine. This applicant definitely does not lack confidence and knows how to talk about themselves. This is an example of a strong voice, strong albeit obnoxious voice. Too many examples which overwhelm the response. Hard for the reader to follow what the student wants us to know about himself. Choosing 1 or 2 examples of how he's a standout candidate would add more context to help us understand this individual. And the grammar and spelling, I actually read around a lot of that, kind of corrected it when I was reading it. So the reason why they called it out here is because it got in the way. Working with an editor, you won't have to worry about that part of it. I'm actually slightly shocked that somebody managed to get that into one of the final 6s, but the 6 case studies, I think the admissions reader just thought that was like too much fun to not include. So just as I did. Okay. So one more thing for the UCs. So those were all of the essay case studies, but here is kind of a student application case study to give you an idea of how UCs look at students. So this applicant, I don't know where Dos Pueblos and San Marcos High School is. I assume somewhere in Southern California. Suburban public schools, They have AP and honors courses. Since it's in California, they have an A through G approved course list. This student was applying to mechanical, engineering, and robotics engineering. Family background, 2 parents, monolingual English speaker, college educated parents who are professionals, and they reported a family income of about $150,000 a year. This student applied to Berkeley, Irvine, Merced, UCLA, Santa Barbara, San Diego, Santa Cruz. So they didn't apply to, I don't know where they didn't apply to. Davis and somewhere else. Riverside, I guess. Those are the 2 campuses he did not apply to. Okay. If you look at the academics of this student, their UC A through G GPA 4.23, which is a pretty good GPA. I think the theoretical maximum that you can get is probably about a 4.33, since the UC GPA is sort of this lightly weighted GPA. So SAT score 1490, 16 on the essay. So as you know, UC's, they're only going to look at SATs with the essay, and they will look at the essay. This student also took the ACT and had a 34, and I don't know how to read the English language arts to decompose what the essay part of it was. But I think assume it's probably decent, but not outstanding. 1 SAT 2, which is Math 2 790. This student completed 3 AP courses before applying and was going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 the senior year. If you look at these numbers up in the top, these next to this, the UC GPA, it has these honors courses. So these are UC honors and AP courses. So in 10th grade, 2 semesters. In 11th grade, 9 semesters. In 12th grade, 10 semesters. So yeah, they do, even though UCs don't generally get your senior grades, they do care about your senior courses, and they count how many A through G courses that you take. I think I mentioned to you it's this crazy counting from 7th grade through 12th grade. We can see how this breaks down in the next screen. So in 9th grade, this student took 4 courses, 4 A through G courses. So that's 8 semesters. None of these are UC honors. And so you can notice, if you look on 9th grade, English, this student's school calls it English 9 honors, but according to UC, there is no such thing as 9th grade English honors. I mean, in terms of okay, so Andrew, see what you after this, see if this kind of explains the question that you have. So basically, this student, this Dos Pueblos High School has something called 9th grade English honors or English 9 honors, and they have English 10 honors. Neither of those are UC honors. UC will never count 9th grade or 10th grade English as an honors course, regardless of what the school calls it. So 10th grade, there are 2 semesters of AP courses that count for UC honors. All the other ones are non-honors. And then 11th grade, 11th grade, you can see that the APs and honors pick up pretty substantially. So AP APLAC is 2 semesters of honors, or AP honors, whatever. And it looks like even though the CCSS Integrated Math 3B Pre-Calc, even though it doesn't have the name honors in the course, that is something that the UC categorizes as honors. Chemistry honors, AP Computer Science, A. So this student ends up maxing out the number of extra GPA points they can get for the UC, which is only 8 semesters of UC honors or APs in the, oh, I see, that's what you're asking, Andrew. Okay, so let me go back to his question now that I understand what you mean. Okay, so Andrew's asking here, if the UCs only count 8 semesters of UC honors or AP courses, then why do they say that this student has 2 semesters in 10th grade, 9 semesters in 11th grade, and 10 semesters in 12th grade? The reason why is that they look at these things in 2 different ways. So in terms of the UC GPA, they will only count 8 semesters. But when they look at the rigor of your curriculum, they look at the UC honors courses that you've taken 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And there's no cap on that. Okay, hi, sorry about that. We're getting kicked off the network periodically, keeping us on our toes. Okay, so let me go back to this. So for the UC GPA, you can only have 8 semesters of UC honors or AP courses. These other 2 fields, this honors field and these A through G courses, this is a different attempt to measure the rigor of your curriculum, and there's no limit on the number of honors or AP courses that you can have here. This student's profile, this number of A through G courses this student's taken, 43 semesters, that number is not very high. I think a higher number would be 50 or more. But the number of honors and AP courses this student's taken is pretty high. The usual, sort of a typical cutoff is about 15, I think, is what they kind of show. So depending on what other students do at this student's school, it looks like the rigor is pretty good. GPA's pretty good, rigor's pretty good. Okay. And senior year, Crazy. Do they have the grades in there for the first semester a couple of years? Huh. Okay. But I'm surprised that they actually have that. I guess since the UCs don't announce, yeah, I'm just going to ignore that because that seems sort of strange to me that they would even include that here. And you can see that this student took one at Santa Barbara City College. So in addition to high school courses, Santa Barbara City College, the student took 4 courses, 2 in Spanish and 2 in math. So those were the academics. This student, high school roller hockey, whatever that is, 3 years. I guess it's hockey on rollerblades. I don't know. First robotics competition, 2 years as a team leader. Volunteered for 3 years at an elementary school. They kind of say that that's 1 week a year. UC Santa Barbara summer camps, 2 years. Counselor for 5 to 12-year-olds, and 1 year engineering club. So what did this student choose to write about in his or her personal insight questions? They chose personal insight question 1, leadership. Describes becoming a leader of a recently established student-led team, first robotics competition team. And the second topic, if you look over on the right side, is education opportunity of overcoming an education barrier. That's that personal insight question 4. So this student writes about major barrier when young was writing with persistence and practice writing improved. Student persevered to become a good writer. That sounds like maybe not that great of a topic. I mean, it kind of, to me, it depends on how young is young. If it was like in elementary school, I'm not sure that's a killer topic. This is personal insight question 6, academic subject that inspires you. Inspired by science and math, and enjoyed the application of these subjects, especially in AP Physics and auto mechanics classes. Mechanical aspects of these courses led to involvement in the robotics team. That is a pretty broad topic to try to cover both science and math, and then to try to tie in auto mechanics and robotics. So that sounds like potentially overly broad to me. And this is personal insight question 7, how did the student make school or community a better place? So the student and teammates started the roller hockey youth league because they were like the only people who knew what it was. Even though the teammates eventually left because this student would run them down and clobber them while they were trying to escape. The student remained and helped the youth. I guess so they were younger kids involved. Learned patience. So it looks like 1 and 7 maybe made the most impression, although, you know, they're trying to highlight all of these. I think the next one is the results. Okay. So what happened? This student applied to Berkeley. At Berkeley, you can only apply to 1 major. This student applied to mechanical engineering, no dice. If this student had applied at Berkeley to, I don't know, College of Letters and Science, he or she may well have gotten in. Irvine, student got in the preferred major. LA, same as Berkeley. In LA, you get 2 majors, but they must be in the same college or school. So if you apply for engineering, your first choice, your second choice has to be engineering. So again, if this student had applied College of Letters and Science, maybe he or she would have gotten into UCLA. But engineering is much harder. Merced Mechanical Engineering, San Diego waitlisted. So here, with San Diego, you can see that, I mean, depends on what this student really, where he or she wanted to go. But you can see with San Diego, this student probably really hurt himself or herself. So besides Berkeley and UCLA, the strategy at the UCs is your first choice major is a hard major, the one you really want to go for. Your second choice major is a relatively easy major that's not going to keep you out of that school. So this student, the second choice major at San Diego was aerospace engineering, which is not an easy major to get into. So if this student had applied to, I don't know, second choice like physics or something like that, probably wouldn't have gotten in. I mean, probably would have gotten in, I'm sorry. Santa Barbara got in mechanical engineering, Santa Cruz got in robotics engineering. So they point out applied only to engineering. So from a kind of an application strategy perspective, that is a mistake. So they said not that many activities, but you know, they were involved over a period of years, academically strong, and taking advantage of opportunities outside and honors courses. So I guess relative to what was offered at the student's schools, he or she took a lot and took those 4 courses at community college and demonstrated leadership, dedication, determination. One other thing that they don't bring up, I'm not sure if they're allowed to bring this up, but this student did not take, the student took only one SAT 2, the math subject level 2 exams. And that would be fine for some of, that would be fine for some of the UCs. But I am pretty sure that, let me see if I can get this quickly for you. So if you Google UC SAT 2, you get a page like this. This is last year's recommendations for fall 2019. And you will see that this student did not take a science test as Berkeley recommends. Didn't apply to Davis, doesn't matter. This student, I guess, got into Irvine Engineering even though he or she didn't take the science test that was recommended. At UCLA, didn't take that science test that was recommended. Merced, they don't ask for anything. Riverside didn't apply. San Diego, the student didn't take the science test that they recommend. And Santa Barbara College of Engineering, they just asked for math, so that's cool. Santa Cruz, they don't ask for anything else. So even though they don't bring this up in the summary, and the UCs have this kind of weaselly thing here where they say, remember, these are recommendations, not mandates. You will not be penalized for failing to take SAT subject tests. On the other hand, submission of these test scores, just like submission of AP and or IB scores, may add positively to the review of your application. So In some of these schools, that may have also kind of cost this applicant. And I think, again, I'm actually surprised the student did as well as he or she did with those. Okay, let's skip this. This is a okay. Okay. So anybody have any quick questions about any of those UC things before we go on to the Common App? Okay, let's go on to the Common App. So I guess the takeaway, I think, from the UCs is that to some extent, I think they're kind of easier. I think they're sort of straightforward to do in the sense that you don't have to agonize over like what's the one true essay topic. And you don't need to write, in fact, you shouldn't write a really beautiful, over-the-top, fabulous metaphorical essay because they really want very straightforward things. Okay. So as you know, your Common App essay is, AKA personal statement, is your main essay. And so we're going to talk about the meaning of the application essays, prompts for each application system, supplements, do's and don'ts, and Common App prompts 1 through 4, and sample essay analysis. Okay. So I think we talked about this with earlier ones. Your essays allow you to be a three-dimensional person in ways that other parts of your application do not. The only other parts of the application that I think have that same potential are the interview and letters of recommendation for those schools that take them. Those are the parts of your application that really let you be a full-fledged human being. Other parts of it are just, a lot of it is just purely quantitative. And even your activities descriptions, honors and awards, community service stuff, I mean, there's just not a lot of room for elaboration. So the second point, essentially, very competitive colleges, they can have absolutely everything, as we've talked about. So the essay is very important for that. It's not that it substitutes for the grades and the test scores, it's just that it's required in addition. And the smaller schools especially put a huge amount of emphasis on the essay. And yeah, I mean, if you have terrible grades and terrible test scores, a great essay is unlikely to get you into Harvard, but a sucky essay may keep you out. Yeah. So there are these different application systems. We've talked about the UC, which is the third one, and we've talked about those things. There is another application system that's not mentioned here, which is the Cal State application system that is for the 23 Cal State campuses, everything from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, San Jose State, San Diego State, Cal State Long Beach, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Cal State schools do not require essays. Okay. Common App is the big system. This is the one that matters for most private schools and for some public schools. I think now they're up to something like 822 member colleges I just looked at today. There is one main essay that goes with all of your Common applications. You can choose from between 7 topics. You just write one essay. This second system that's listed, CAS, better known as the Coalition, how do I say this? A few years ago, it looked like the Coalition was going to be a bigger contender than it has turned out to be. By and large, if you have a choice between applying with the Common App and if you have a choice between applying with the Common App and the Coalition system, this first one and this second one, most of the time you should choose to apply with the Common App. It's easier, it's cleaner, less muss, less fuss. Where the Coalition application system is going to matter is in the schools that only take it and not the Common App. What are these schools? These are large public schools that are not UCs and not Cal States. So University of Washington in Seattle, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, aka UIUC, I am spacing out, but there are some other ones. University of Texas, Austin, Texas A&M, schools like that. You're basically will be stuck with applying via the Coalition. Okay. The Common Application essay prompts for this coming year, the one that affects you, they're the same prompts that they were this last year. Essay 1, prompt 1 is essentially like write about anything, as long as it's one thing. This is a catch-all prompt. Background, identity, interest, or talent, so meaningful you believe your application will be complete without it. So if you can't figure out any other prompt that's going to work, use that one. The prompt 2 is lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or a failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? So this is kind of, this is a little bit like that UCPIQ 5. It's a little bit like part of that UCPIQ 4. And, you know, this is something that if you can write to it, you can show your grit or resilience or other buzzwords that colleges like. Prompt 3, reflect on a time when you question or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? I think it's a good prompt. It's a prompt that not all students can write to. It's kind of restricted, which we'll talk about in a bit. Prompt 4, describe a problem you've solved or a problem you'd like to solve. It can be an intellectual challenge, a research query, an ethical dilemma, anything that is of personal importance no matter the scale. So saying as long as it matters to you, you can make it matter to them. Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution. 5, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. So as it says, the focus of 5 is growth. Not, as you might first look at it, not accomplishment, event, or realization. I'm going to say right now, Common App prompt 6, Common App prompt 7. Unless you really know what you're doing, don't write to either of these. Prompt 6, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? So this prompt 6 is like the UC prompt 6 that's asking you about some academic topic that inspires you. Why do I say you should not write to prompt 6? It is very difficult to write an essay to prompt 6 that is not academic in nature. Here we are back again. It's like Groundhog Day. We're like reset every few minutes. Okay. Let me go back and reshare. Okay. So the reason not to write to prompt 6 is most of the supplements that you're going to write to individual universities are academic in nature. Hello again. Do you hear audio now? Audio, audio, audio. Okay, cool. Sorry, the internet, she is unforgiving today. Okay. So, okay. You guys still there? Yeah. Okay, cool. So basically, 6, there is, like, you could conceivably write something that's not academic. Let's say you're interested in mechanical engineering, like that kid that we just looked at, and you love fixing cars. And you love figuring out how cars work and fixing them and taking them apart and stuff like that. So you could conceivably write about that and it wouldn't be super academic-y. So the reason why you want to avoid 6 is you don't want all your essays that you give to a school to show similar facets of you. You want to be able to show different dimensions of yourself. So generally, if you have to write other academic essays for a college, you'd also like to show some other side of yourself. That's why 6 usually doesn't work. 7 is a totally free-form topic. Unless you know what you're doing, I think 7 is kind of an invitation to disaster. It's like a terrible suggestion they have that just like reuse an essay you've already written, etc. But if you're a skilled writer and you know what you're doing, then maybe 7 will work.
Welcome to Common App Ready. your powerful, flexible advising tool. These ready-to-use resources and training documents have been created with you and your students in mind. Here you can browse our resources covering every aspect of the application, from account creation through submission, as well as the Common App recommendation process. Present them all at once or in multiple workshops to your students, parents, colleagues, or anyone else who could benefit from learning about the Common Application.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
Cool. You just
Okay. Sorry.
Welcome to Common App Ready, your powerful, flexible advising tool. These ready-to-use resources and training documents have been created with you and your students in mind. Here you can browse our resources covering every aspect of the application, from account creation through submission, as well as the Common App recommendation process. Present them all at once or in multiple workshops to your students, parents, colleagues, or anyone else who could benefit from learning about the Common Application. There are lots of ways to help yourself get Common App ready. Within the toolkit, you'll find each resource listed. A quick glance will tell you what section of information this resource belongs to, the resource title, and a short description. Common App Ready offers a variety of multimedia materials to pick and choose from, including handouts you can provide to students and families. To help you navigate those choices, we'll note the resource type, whether that be a PowerPoint presentation, infographic, info sheet, or video tutorial. For your convenience when working with your students, you'll note the S marking on some resources. This indicates that the particular resource is good for students and can be shared directly with them. Ready to select and view a particular resource? Click the arrow to download the resource directly from the toolkit. Want to narrow down the resources by subject or resource type? Click the filter feature and you'll be able to search for resources by keyword, the type of resource you'd like to use, or by the subject matter. If you'd like to see all of the toolkit options again, simply click to clear your active filter. You can also click on the resource title for more information. From here you can find additional information about that particular resource, as well as find a list of related resources you might also want to view. You can also click on the social media links to share this helpful resource with your colleagues. We never want your education to end, so you'll always find the Browse Common App Ready link to find your way back to the toolkit. At the Common App, we know your days can be complicated. Preparing your students and families for the college application process doesn't have to be. Get Common App Ready today.
All right. Let's back to share. So there are a lot of, as you get into the Common App process, there are a lot of resources there that are helpful that you can access and that we can access and share with you. Okay. No.
Well,
okay. Okay. This slide is actually not quite accurate. This slide is based. This slide is looking at the Common Application prompts and saying which were the most commonly used. I mean, actually, this slide is accurate. In 2017 and 2018, these were the most popular prompts. Last year, the most popular prompt was number 7, topic of your choice. 24.1% of students chose that because, like, you can write about anything with it. The second most popular prompt was prompt 5, and almost exactly the same number of students chose that one. So that was 23.7% of students chose prompt 5. The third most popular prompt was a new contender. So number 1 was knocked out, and prompt 2, the one about overcoming an obstacle or failure or setback or something like that, 21.1% of students chose that. So between those three, that's about 65%, or I guess about 68% or 69% of the total. So pretty healthy margin of students chose those. Okay, yeah, skip that. Okay. A moment ago, when I was talking about Common App Prompt 6. So again, your Common App essay is your main essay. So it goes with every school that you apply to using the Common Application. So a moment ago, I was saying that generally you shouldn't choose 6 because it's going to overlap with your supplements. So here are the supplements. This is what we're talking about. So some colleges, especially the competitive colleges, have these supplemental essays or supplements. A school may have 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 7. They may be some very short ones. They might be longer ones. They're just kind of all over the place. Sometimes not only for the college, but sometimes they're for majors. In fact, if you think you're going to apply for engineering, get ready to write a lot of essays, because engineering has a lot of penalty essays, as I like to think of them as. So if you apply to USC, okay. I think the duration may be coming. Trying to be hopelessly optimistic. It's like the duration that I'm being shut out is shorter. Okay. Basically that there are, especially for engineering, there are penalty essays. So if you apply to USC, you actually have to write 2 extra essays you're applying for engineering. It says make sure you submit the supplemental essays. I think generally this is not super confusing. If an essay, if it says it is optional, do not believe that, especially if it is a competitive school. Chances are it is not really optional if you would like to attend that school. And you may need to do a lot of research, especially on the academic ones or the school-specific ones, to come up with kind of good reasons for why you'll go there. College websites, actually, it says check college websites for major-related essay requirements. Eventually, come August. So right now, you can set up a Common App account and you can add colleges to your list. However, if you do that, you will notice that you'll notice all the dates are crazy. The application dates are all last year's dates. So that's a sign to you that the Common App hasn't been updated yet. In August, the Common App will be updated and your account will still be good. Your college list will still be good, but you'll actually start seeing the supplemental essays for 2019-2020. And okay, hopefully we won't be cut off in the final round. But basically, what I was saying is that in August, you'll notice that the Common App will start showing the 2019-2020 application deadlines. So that's a sign that the supplement prompts are going to repopulate for next year. And I'm just going to mention one last thing about that is it's pretty confusing for somebody who hasn't been doing this for a while to actually find the college supplements, because sometimes they're called writing supplements, sometimes they're called college questions, sometimes they're called other things. So double check with your editor before you come to the conclusion that you don't need to write any supplements for a school, because the supplements can be hidden in strange little places. Okay. So these are the supplements. Really, out of these, the two that are genuinely common is this second one. Describe an extracurricular activity, why it's important to you. This is a pretty common prompt. And this one, why do you want to attend our college? This is extremely common. Why NYU? Why BU? I don't know. Many schools have a why college. If they don't have a why college, they often have a why major at college. And again, it's this, what major are you considering and why? That's really, why do you want to study this major at our college? So it's actually much more specific. Many schools have prompts like this. I think these do's and don'ts are pretty similar to the earlier ones. Unlike the UC examples, in the case studies that the UCs put out there, they really don't have that much show don't tell. For your main okay, we'll wrap it up before we can get cut off again. All right, let me share. Okay. For your main essay in particular, you do want to show don't tell to a large extent. So anecdotes are going to be your friend. And all these other things you're going to do, you are definitionally starting early. These are the same. These are the same things for UC. These are the same as UCs. We'll share these with you. There's some kind of different brainstorming exercises that you can try to kind of get you going. And in fact, some of these end up being short. They're not really essays, short question topics. So number one, 3 words describe you the best. Unless they change it this year, that's something that USC asks every year, and some other schools as well that I can't recall at the moment. So some kind of open-ended questions to kind of elicit some thinking. Share these with you. We've talked a lot about making things personal. And in this process, you need to take your time, especially with things like the main essay and your UC personal insight questions. Avoid repetition, not only what's in your application, but also between your different essays or statements. And specificity can really turn something, it can really change something from being bland and boring, and you kind of imagine the bleary-eyed admissions officers read 50 essays that day, kind of falling asleep, versus something that they can get really excited about. So I advise actually don't worry about wording at this stage. One, for better and worse, we use the writing process when you work with an editor on your essays. So in the beginning, the important thing is to brainstorm topics, and then the next thing is to kind of get down a first draft. So you really don't need to worry about things like wording and grammar in the beginning. I think we're going to run out of time. I think, as I mentioned, this Common App Prompt 1, you can write anything to this as long as it is just one thing. So if you participate in robotics, you can write about that, but you just stick with robotics. If you do Model UN, you talk about that, just stick with that. Really any single thing, regardless of kind of what time period it covers. One advantage of covering a longer period of time than like a day, a week, a couple weeks, is that you can actually show growth. You can actually more credibly highlight learning and growth. Common App Prompt 1, great. I think of it as a fallback prompt. Identity, a lot of latitude. Background could be kind of anything. How and why you tell the story is important. And remember, colleges are most interested in who you are today. So they're mainly interested in the past as it influenced that, and their interest in middle school is pretty darn limited. Their interest in elementary school is like about nil. Common App Prompt 2, which kind of surprisingly became that number 2 prompt. So again, as I said with the personal insight questions, all prompts are equal, but some prompts are more equal than others. Personally, my favorite prompts are 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this prompt gives you an opportunity to show a time when you failed, a time when you faced a challenge, a time when you struggled, some conflict, and then something you learned from it. if you do talk about something you failed, you don't have to win that one, but you probably have to have some subsequent thing that you kind of want. You really can't write about how you wanted to become a really fast runner, you ran in cross country, you're a mediocre runner, and so your resolution is that you redefine success so that being a mediocre runner is okay. That's really not gonna work for a competitive college. But again, grit, resilience. The reason why this is a good prompt is because colleges know that you are going to fail at some point. They want to know what's going to happen. Are you just going to give it up, crumple, or are you going to pick yourself up and try again? And let's take a look at this. So introduction, honesty. And this prompt is good because it pushes you to talk about setbacks, failures, things where you aren't always winning, and that makes for a better essay. And the learning and the growth is important for this one. And I think, okay, so I think we're going to leave it there and not continue on to prompt 3. I want to thank you 1,000 times over for putting up with 57 internet stoppages. You are wonderful, glorious people, and I will see you next week. Thank you. Bye.